So today I'm going to talk about the balance between intention and surrender, and how both of those movements of intention and surrender are life, right? It feels like when you set an intention that it's me, the separate self, setting an intention. And sometimes we even feel like it's me, the separate self, giving up control. But actually there's a natural dance of intention and surrender that life does, right? When it occurs to us that like, oh, maybe I should be more intentional. Maybe I should contemplate certain frequencies. Maybe I should bathe in certain frequencies. Maybe I should listen to a certain devotional music. Maybe I should read a few lines of this book. That's life seeking itself. That's life seeking itself. But there's a tendency, because this is just what the ego does. The ego overdoes everything. The ego kind of drains your energy. So how do you know if you're not in that sweet spot of allowing and intending? Well, you might feel fatigued by your practices, by your lifestyle. Your life might be feeling a little messy. You might be feeling a little chaotic and lost, which is okay. If you feel chaotic and lost, just feel chaotic and lost and don't resist it, and it will end. Everything that you feel, if you feel it without division, when you feel it without making it wrong or questioning it or asking about it or wondering about it, it will pass. And some things you do need to inquire more deeply into, simply because they're stickier than other things. But there is a sweet spot between intention and surrender. And I want to really remind, as far as intention goes, right? I say a lot that we are both pure being and creator. So you could step back and just watch everything. But the problem with that is that the mind keeps creating. So the mind does create reality. In the same way that Dr. Emoto showed us that words create form in water, our words do create form in our life. Our vibrations do create form in our life. So if you remain as the observer, just sitting back and observing, over time that will reduce the momentum of the mind because you're no longer feeding it. But if you tend to be disassociated, right, and then the wheel of your mind is still turning and creating your life, what's happening is that you're just creating the same life, and then you're just saying, okay, I won't resist it. So you're creating the same life, and then you're okay with it, and then you create it again, and then you're okay with it. So how do you create something new? Well, for one thing, you have to be acutely aware of what you're creating and how you're creating. And so the intention to, familiarizing yourself with higher love, higher frequencies, with heart love. A dear friend of mine said the other day that the way he meditates, and he's a brilliant channel, he said what he does is he goes into the blackness, into the void, and then he feels his heart filling the space with his love. And that's what he bathes in, that energy. And that's what I do. And the reason why it's so important is because that makes you able to see your shadow energies in real time as they're appearing in your life. But it also looks like if you're not being intentional enough, right, it might seem like your life isn't going anywhere, because like I said, life is both being and creating. So when you get the idea, like, oh, to call the bank right now and make that phone call that you've had to make for a while. Like, you keep getting the idea, call the bank, right? Okay, do it. Or you get the idea like, well, today I usually spend 2 hours of meditation, but what I really want to do is turn music on and just spontaneously move my body. That's life. That's what you have to do. That's what being in alignment would be like if you were aligned with thought, right? Thought is trying to create a better reality for you, but you impose mechanical practices and habits over it that inhibit your ability to live that life. So there's a tendency for people to get it's like there's a tendency of the ego to overdo things. They overdo surrender or they overdo intention. They either try way too hard. And so what you're saying is you're in a constant vibration of lack. Like, I'm going to set 1,000,000 intentions today because I'm going to make sure the universe knows like what I want. The universe already knows what you want. But when the universe is expressing to you, like you wake up in the morning and it's saying, hey, pull out those, beautiful cards and read some cards or some pages instead of looking at your cell phone. And you ignore it and your mind wants to go to the familiar, right? That's where intention would be helpful. Life might come in and say, okay, no, set an intention. You have this tendency to waver. Set an intention and follow it. And then you'll know that the intention is no longer like valid or real time when the intention that you set before is starting to make you feel fatigued. So like, okay, maybe reading those pages in the morning and doing that routine, maybe what my body wants right now is to go for a morning walk at 6 o'clock in the morning. Oh, it feels really good to get fresh air. The most important thing is to be available to the moment and available to the ideas that are coming into your mind, because that's life literally trying to move you forward. But when we are not in a good balance between intention and surrender, life gets chaotic, or life pauses, or life gets stuck. It's never stuck, but it feels stuck because we're imposing a mechanical practice or a routine over a real-time thought, right? That's when we're trying too hard or being too intentional, and being too unintentional looks like, well, okay, my mind is still creating the same drama and it's doing the same, it's going to the cell phone every day. It's going to that stuff every day. It's looking for its familiar conflict every day. And I'm just accepting it as it is. Okay, that's better than not accepting it as it is. That's better than trying to fix yourself. You should never call yourself wrong. But when you find yourself slipping into just familiar childhood, if you have an intolerance to being bored, and so then you connect with people that you really don't want to connect with, if you have an intolerance to feeling alone, right? If all of your friends and family happen to be unavailable to talk right now and they can't talk to you right now, well, you'll go into a tailspin, right? You're at the mercy of your child's perspective of the environment. You feel abandoned. And then you accept what is, you accept what is. But the thing is, like I said, the mind is creating what is, and then you're surrendering to it. So the question is, if your mind is always creating, right, are you as equally involved with your mind as you are with the feeling of surrender? Because source comes in as an idea, source comes in as an intention, right? So there's a balance, there's a sweet spot between intention and surrender, between letting the universe take care of it. But wait, I am the universe. So if I am the universe, right, when I say I'm going to take care of it, it's not me, a separate self, solving my problems. It's me receiving the intention of the universe to move me past my problems. So if you are too much on the side of just let everything go, let everything be as it is, that would look like years of doing that practice and your life staying pretty much the same. And sometimes, there are people who have certain gestation periods of quite a long time before the faucet turns on, so to speak, before maybe something shifts in their life towards something more wanted. But if you're applying this teaching of I'm just going to allow everything to be as it is, but yet, for example, you're in a relationship and perhaps the relationship has abusive qualities, I'm just going to allow it to be as it is. Okay, but there's something else. Life is coming through you, and life is wanting to express differently. Maybe life as you wants to express more clearly your boundaries, right? Set an intention of what kind of space or what kind of energy you're going to create in your home. Instead of just sitting back and letting everything be as it is, it's like, what energy do you want to create in this world? Do you want to sit back and just watch yourself be deceptive, yourself be shut down and quiet, yourself be uninspired? Just watch that and let it be as it is? Or do you want to be actually involved in life, which is life being involved with itself? And you want to actually listen to the impulse of like, actually, yes, I would like to speak clearly and sincerely with my partner about what doesn't make me comfortable in this situation. I would like to actually intentionally put beautiful energy into my home for myself and maybe even for my family, for my children. Like, that's a good question to ask yourself. What am I putting into this world? You're not putting anything into the world when you're just the observer. I mean, you are putting like a sense of, you're not feeding fire, and you are putting a sense of ease. But when you're truly in a state of non-resistance, you are both surrendered. You are surrendered to action. You're surrendered to action because life is acting through you. Life is acting through you. But people get caught up. They either take the idea of intention and like applying metaphysics, and their worthless ego, the ego that feels unworthy, just applies it too much, and it makes it stressful. It turns stressful. That's how you know that it's your mind, right? It becomes stressful, and it frustrates you. It becomes stressful. When it's really in alignment with like what life is wanting to do, okay, you go into a visualization. It feels really good. It helps you get into an energy of the day. It helps you align with your present/future self, right? A metaphysical practice that puts you in the energy of, you know, the life that you truly want to live, and you make that familiar to you, and you have the intention to carry that into your day. That's life setting an intention. That's not you separate self setting an intention. The intention is really important. It's a really important aspect of life. You just have to find that. Then when you're getting too intentional, and when you feel a lack of trust and you feel like you have to try harder, then that's when you start to become fatigued, and you've gone the other way. You're stressing yourself out because you really don't believe any of this, and you feel like you need to try harder. The truth is that life is actually not neutral. Life is actually like, it's love. Life is moving towards more happiness naturally. You know, if you notice the evolution of our world, like, everything has gotten better. And I'm not talking about, you know, there's countries experiencing wars and everything. They're going through different, but in general, like, the technology that we have, the knowledge that we have, the ability to connect around the world that we have, the ability to learn that we have, the fact that we print money, it's not even backed up. I mean, the shift that currency is going through is becoming more and more modern. Just the consciousness that's available to us, just because we're so connected to each other, the awareness that's available to us because of all the information and all the energy that's available to us, like, life is moving in a direction towards more awareness, more happiness, more evolution, and you're part of life. And so that's naturally happening for you. That is naturally happening for you. If you never did a metaphysical practice, or you never did a practice, and you just deeply knew, like, the truth that life is actually programmed for your well-being, if you really just knew that and made it simple, your life would be really fun and easy. But human beings have a really hard time trusting that. And so this is where practices come in. This is where intentions come in. And your source knows what kind of resistance you have, right? And so it will set a specific intention for you. It will give you a particular inspired idea, or it will send you a particular opportunity. So yeah, especially in the realm of non-dual teachings, it can get really heady and philosophical. And while philosophy and thought can be quite beautiful in its own kind of music, ask yourself too, if you're one of those people who's always chewing over concepts, like, what's the fruits of this exactly? What's the fruit? Am I happy? Is my energy free? Am I playful? Do I feel inspired? Do I feel playful? Right? Is whatever I'm doing right now, is it manifesting as joy? Or is it keeping me in like this kind of low grade stress? It's like a low grade headache, right? A low grade stress. The availability, making yourself available to spontaneity, but spontaneity, both in the form of intention and letting go, is where it's at. And if you ask the universe, show me how I could do this. Show me how I could find my sweet spot between intention and surrender. Show me. If this resonates with you, if you find yourself on one end of the pendulum, take into consideration, like, this is the thing that people forget. Your form, your human form, is life. There's no division of consciousness. Consciousness is the changeless and the unborn and the being and the desireless, and it's also desire, and it's also manifestation. And while it's like, I gave the example of Eckhart Tolle when he said, oh, I spent many years just being, and then one day I said, I want more, because he is life, and life doesn't stay the same. Life wanted more. Life wanted to write the power of now. Life wanted that teaching to be exposed to people. That teaching has changed lives. And I'm not saying like, okay, that the goal of life is to change a bunch of lives, but you inevitably do change lives in ways that you can't comprehend when you make yourself available to life as it wants to manifest. So don't deny the part of you that wants to create. Don't deny the part of you, like Ajia, a teacher that I absolutely adore. It's like, first of all, we make images of spiritual teachers, but understand that if we're in a physical body, we want to be here. And does that mean, like, according to some scriptures, oh, we have desire, so we're stuck in this realm of hell? Like, no. We're here because senses are beautiful. We're here because touching and color and texture and creation and connection and relationship are beautiful. They're beautiful. Like, I go out of body, I go into other worlds, and those worlds are beautiful too, and they're hyper real and they're beautiful. But there's something just like really special and gorgeous, and like, I don't know, the human heart and the human experience is like particularly beautiful. And so, I remember also hearing a story by Ramakrishna. And Ramakrishna said his wife told him, why are you so attached? Why are you so attached to my cooking? Like, you're supposed to be this master who like has transcended his senses. And he's like, wife, expect that when I don't want to eat your food anymore, I will leave this earth in 3 days. Because something has to keep me here, right? The desire to enjoy this food just helps me stay here and teach. Like, our desires are so important on so many levels. Like, whatever's keeping us here, like, it's not a punishment, it's not a bondage. It might be if you're totally identified with your mind, but the bondage isn't earth. The bondage is that you're identified with your mind. But like I said, there are masters like Babaji who live for thousands of years and stay in a body, and they desire to stay and help earth because that's what they desire, not because they are prisoners. And Ajia puts on beautiful events. Ajia has a satsang. That's desire expressing itself. So surrender is not becoming uninvolved. That would be a kind of disassociation from the dimension of form. There is a sweet spot between hands off and hands on, hands off and hands on. And just contemplating this might make you aware of where you might be in that spectrum, and maybe some kind of correction might begin to be being made. Because I remember being confused about this. Like, it's like, I had a kind of awakening that no matter what book I read or no matter what I did, it was going to happen anyway. And that's kind of true for everyone, right? Like, things are happening anyway. Like, but for a while I thought, oh, I'm never going to have to go into my psyche, because I had a very like intense ejection out of my human experience. I went into this very mystical, transcendental place. And then the energy turned around and started purifying my psyche, which I talk about a lot. Because I think what I'm here to speak about is that really what we're here to do is bring God to earth. We're not here to go find God. We are God, but we're here to help it express unimpeded through form, because that's its joy. So yeah, there's a sweet spot between surrender and intention. Find it. Find it. Realize that if you're being too mechanical, if you're forcing things on yourself, you'll start to feel depressed and tired, because if life is moving, right, and you're trying to impose a habit on it, you're trying to impose anything on it, the energy is going to get blocked, and it will come out as like, oh, I'm so tired. Like, why can't I meditate anymore? Like, my brain's just mush. Like, yeah, it's probably because you're not listening to life, and life might be saying, get up and shake your ass and dance. Get up and do something different, you know? So that's it for today. I hope you have a beautiful day.